All right, everyone. We're about 2 minutes after. We're gonna go ahead and get started. First, I'm Barrett Young. I'm our CMO here at TeamSense, and welcome to TeamSense very first product roadmap webinar. And we couldn't be more thrilled that you're here. Here at TeamSense, we have built the industry's number one text-based call-off system and paired it with powerful digital connection tools that actually work for hourly workers. And that's no small thing. But if you know TeamSense, you know that we can't stop there. We see the stress and the chaos that happens at the start of the shift, and we believe that we can fix it. Today, you're getting an exclusive look on exactly how we're going to do that. It's my honor to introduce the person leading that charge, Alvaro Soto, our Vice President of Product at TeamSense, to take you through it. Alvaro, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Barrett. Hey, everyone. Yep, I'm Alvaro Soto, VP of Product and TeamSense, and I'm so excited to just present to you all the work that we're doing here at TeamSense. Is very exciting, and we can't wait to share it with you and then at some point get it in your hands. So let me just start by telling you a little bit about myself and the story of TeamSense through that lens. I joined TeamSense about 6 months ago. And before that, I spent 6 years at a large construction tech company building products for construction workers and field engineers. These people who don't sit at desks, who need information fast, and who have zero patience for software that slows them down. Sounds familiar? There are two things that excite me the most about TeamSense then. First, the churn rate. It's almost zero. In 5 years, this company has barely lost a customer. So you can fake retention, and that's really exciting. Second, the surface area of what's possible. TeamSense has a daily trusted digital connection with every frontline worker in the building, and almost nobody is building tools for the most important person in manufacturing facilities, the floor supervisor. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. Where we've been, what we've proven, and most exciting, and why you're all here, why we're where we're going. All right. So here's what I think about constantly since I joined TeamSense. The supervisor on a manufacturing floor is a conduit. I also call them an API. They're taking inputs from everywhere, scheduling systems, HR data, real-time absences, their own knowledge of their team, and outputting decisions that are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars every shift. They know the new hire on line one isn't fully trained yet, that maintenance is coming at 10 a.m., that the person that normally called for coverage just worked a double yesterday. All of that lives in one person's head. And here's the problem. Manufacturing has invested in systems above the supervisor, planning, scheduling, analytics, and also below execution, time tracking, compliance. But the layer where human judgment, where the supervisor really sits, where they meet operational reality in real time, there's no system for that. Our CEO Sheila Stafford spent 20 years on factory floors. Ford, GM, Whirlpool, Fluke. Her insight, everyone has a phone. Everyone knows how to text. Start there. No app download, no company email, no Wi-Fi needed. That's how TeamSense was born, built on the most universal communication channel that exists. So what happens when you deploy something this simple? Kenko, one of our customers, one of the largest logistic companies in the country, 40% reduction in absenteeism. No, that's not incremental, that is transformational. Magna, an automotive tier one supplier, 70% reduction in no call, no shows. Think about what that means for a line that needs to run. At Magna, supervisors were spending their entire morning on the phone playing detective. Now a call off takes 26 seconds. The supervisors knows instantly. Pella, supervisors getting 10 to 12 hours back per week. That's a supervisor who can actually lead instead of firefight. And then finally, at Modine Manufacturing, they were using a previous calling system, constant complaints. They switched to TeamSense, zero complaints. Their operations manager, who has hundreds of direct reports across multiple sites, told us he can now identify and notify employees during furloughs events in minutes instead of hours. But here's a number that matters most to me. The churn rate, almost zero in 5 years. When you see that kind of retention, you know the product isn't just solving a problem, it's becoming part of how people operate. And this is the feature that I'm very proud of today that no competitor has. And it's the reason those numbers are what they are. Before an employee completes a call off, we show them their attendance record, their points balance, their absence count, where they stand relative to their company's policy. This isn't surveillance, this is transparency. Employees see where they stand and they make different decisions. One of our casino resorts customers put it this way. They saw a 50% decline in the dispute resolution process being initiated for attendance violations. Because I mean, think about it this way, when the data is transparent and trackable, there's just nothing to dispute. So absenteeism drops not because we're tracking people, but because we're informing them the right information at the right moment for the person closest to the work. That principle is the foundation of everything we're building next. And this is what we're going to talk about today, what I call the road to operational truth. If attendance was the wedge, the high frequency mandatory use case that established a daily trusted connection with every frontline worker, but the connection itself is the platform. That's what we build on top. Let me show you what that looks like, the problem today, and then the solution. This is what a supervisor's morning actually looks like, and I'm not exaggerating. This comes directly from our design partners and customers' conversations that we've had, and I'm mocking it here so that you understand that we can live that moment at 3 a.m. in the morning. You're a supervisor, 3 a.m., the alarm goes off. You check your phone, three call off texts. You have no idea who can cover. 3:15, you start calling your mental list because everybody has a mental list. You're going through names in your head because there's no system that tells you who's available and qualified. And it's 3 a.m. in the morning. 3:30, two, don't answer. One says no, they can't. You tried the next names. It's 4:45. You arrive at the plant, you still have gaps. You manually check who's near their points limit and start shuffling people between lines. Because by the way, it's not just about who's available, but also there's all sorts of constraints of who can actually fill that shift. 5 a.m. shift starts, you're scrambling to reassign. Now, one of our customers at a sugar manufacturing co-op described this exact scenario during their fall campaign. They ramped from 200 to over 600 employees in weeks. Their supervisors are running three shifts, managing seasonal workers they barely know, and trying to fill gaps at 3 a.m. with a mental list that's basically useless because half of these workers are new. So look at the hidden cost. 45 minutes average to find coverage, three to five phone calls per open position, and zero of those decisions tracked or learned from. There's no system that is actually tracking that data. When that supervisor transfers or retires, everything they knew walks out the door with them. Now let's look at the future of how this might work when a system is actually taking the lead. In this case, it will be TeamSense. 3 a.m., the alarm goes off. This time is TeamSense alert. It says three call offs, but we also have two backfill recommendations ready for you. 301, the system has already identified who's available, who's qualified, and who's willing to take that shift. It's presenting you with options, not decisions, just options for that supervisor. 302, you review. One looks right, the other you rather swap in someone else because you know they work better on that line. At the end of the day, is the supervisor the person that is in charge. You tap approve on one and you modify the other one. 303, workers get notified via text directly through TeamSense and the coverage is confirmed. 304, one gap remains, no one available with the right certifications, and so the points are calculated and HR it's auto notified. No paperwork that is needed to transfer, no emails, nothing like that. Everything is automatically tracked and sent through TeamSense. Now, think about what that means for a company like Land O'Lakes, for example, one of our customers. They have 14 separate attendance policies across 12 union CBAs. The supervisors managing those shifts need a system that respects those policy differences automatically, not one that adds another manual step. So that's what we're building towards. But I want to just be straightforward here. The supervisor stays in control. That's always extremely important for us. We're not building autonomous staffing decisions. The supervisor judgment is the data that we care about. Every time they approve or reject a recommendation, the system learns what good looks like on their floor. Now, let me talk to you about how we get there, because obviously you saw the experience of that future, and there's a lot of steps for us to get there and a lot of parts that we really need to build to get it right. And so I'm going to walk you through that roadmap. This is basically the roadmap for TeamSense in 2026. Call of intelligence. This is where we are today. So how do we get from here to there? Step by step, each step earns the right to the next one in our minds. Phase one is where we are today. When someone calls off, TeamSense captures it instantly. The supervisor gets a notification before the shift starts. This is happening today. Before TeamSense, this information lived on an answering machine. For example, at one of our customers, their operations director was handling both operations and HR after the HR manager transferred. He was checking voicemails, tracking points on paper, and trying to coordinate coverage across a facility that was literally relocating to a new building. Now it's one real-time signal, and it's the first thing supervisors check every morning. This is happening today with TeamSense. Phase two, this is what we call availability truth. And this is what we're building right now. Call of data tells you who's not coming, but it doesn't tell you who is here or who is available but not scheduled, right? So let me make this concrete. One of our customers, Crushman and Wakefield, they have 12,000 deskless workers, employees without company email or access to internal systems. When someone calls off at a facility, the information goes through the manager to an ops support team, to a ServiceNow ticket, to the payroll team. The game of telephone creates about 800 payroll edits per month. 800. We're building a complete picture of what we call availability. Who's here, who could be here, and who's reachable by connecting call off signals with schedule data, shift patterns, and the ability to reach workers directly through the channel they already use, TeamSense. When you have true availability, not what the schedule says, but what actually is real right now, supervisors start to trust and to start from truth, and they look forward to that shift. That's our vision. Now let's go to phase three. This is when we just make everybody in the plant available of what aware of what's happening in the shift. So we also call it shift start snapshot. We're piloting this with some design partners and looking for and working with more design partners as we speak. Availability answers who's here, but supervisors need more. What's different today versus yesterday? Is there a handoff from the previous shift, a machine down, a training gap on a specific line? Today, that context lives in a conversation at shift coverage, at shift change, or doesn't transfer at all because people don't have the time and they don't have anywhere to capture it. We're building the system that captures that information, preserves it across shifts, and delivers it before the supervisor walks in into their shift. What we're learning from our design partners and our customers is that supervisors want to contribute. When you make it easy for them to log what matters, they'll do it because it helps the next supervisor and it helps them when they come back the next day. Phase four, and this is when it gets really interesting to me. This is what we call skills and qualifications. When someone calls off, the supervisor mentally runs through who can replace them, not just who's available. That would be a much simpler world. But who's qualified to do the job? Who has the forklift certification? Who's trained on this machine? And who's on light duty, for example? That entire calculation happens in one person's head. It's incredible. Actually, I find the job of supervisors really hard and incredible today that they can do all of this in their heads. At one of our food production partners, they run 3 shifts across multiple lines with different certification requirements. When a supervisor is out sick, the replacement supervisor doesn't know any of that. They're making blind coverage decisions. We're building a skill matrix that makes labor a known variable, validated by supervisors in the flow of work, not entered by HR from a spreadsheet that is 6 months old and nobody's updating. This is where the principle I call data birthright really matters. It's part of our kind of like a lingo here at TeamSense of our strategy. And this is because we'd rather have 60% of the data that's 100% trusted than 100% of the data that's just 50% trusted. We really care about having data that is fully confirmed by the supervisor. A supervisor, and we believe that a supervisor will use a system that's honest about what he doesn't know. They'll abandon, though, one that confidently tells them something that's wrong, and we just don't want to do that. So, phase five, now we're getting intelligent here. We call it feasibility or the unlock. Once you have availability, truth, and skills, you can answer a question no system in manufacturing answers today. We're building this, and this is just brand new. It doesn't exist. We're building technology for a new category of products. And basically, what this answers is what can realistically run today? Not what was planned, because the system says that that's supposed to run, but what can realistically run today? So, what can actually happen given who showed up, what skills they have, and what constraints exist right now? That's why we call it the unlock. The moment the system goes from informing the supervisor and being something helpful to actually partnering with them. Basically, an AI system that is constantly working with the supervisor to make sure their jobs can be done effectively, efficiently, and that the plan stays informed and helping them not duplicate or do a lot of manual effort to be able to do the basic things that they should do on their job. Phase six is when we get to automated backfill. When you know who's out, what skills are needed, and who's available and qualified, you can start recommending coverage. So we will start recommending coverage. The system identifies the gap, matches it against available workers, and presents supervisors with just options that are really valuable that today they have to calculate and probably miss a lot in their heads. Favoritism happens. One of our customers told us that. Not a decision, right? We're presenting them with options because at the end of the day, we know that the skills of the supervisors are something that we will never be able to replace, but we can enhance them. So supervisors approve, modify, or reject the options that were given them. And the most important thing is that every action that they do is tracked in the system. So think about it this way. In the scramble slide that I presented earlier, the supervisor made 6 phone calls over 45 minutes, and none of that was captured. Basically, they're doing a lot of intelligent decision making that is extremely valuable for corporations to learn from. And none of those decisions are captured today. Here, every recommendation, every decision, every outcome is data that then the company can use to run more efficiently, and that we will present you with that information so that you can make decisions. The system learns what's good, what good looks like on their floor. And then finally, this is our vision and our vision that we will accomplish, but this is obviously the last step of the ladder of how we get there, our moonshot. The final step is closing the loop, tying decisions to actions to outcomes. If we learn, if we know what's happening, if we can make recommendations and we're becoming intelligent, then what is next? Well, we need to contribute to the outcomes. So think about it this way. When a backfill recommendation was accepted and the shift ran well, that's a signal that we learn from. When it was rejected, that is also a signal that we can learn from. Over time, the system builds a model from the actual decisions supervisors make every day. This is what we would call AI models. And that's essentially operational truth, data that doesn't exist anywhere else because no system ever captures it. And this is what we're here to do, to capture it and learn from it. So I'll close with this slide. We started with a text message. We proved it works. All of our customers near zero churn in 5 years. Supervisors who check TeamSense before they check anything else. That's what's happening today. HR teams that check TeamSense before anything else. That's happening today. Now we're building the system that helps supervisors run better shifts, make better decisions, and actually lead their teams instead of fighting fires. Sheila started this company because she'd been the person walking those floors. And we all join, Barrett, Devin, all of us join because we believe that the fanciest technology in the world means nothing if the people you're building it for can't use it. And we've proven they can. And attendance matters because it's the daily habit that makes everything else that we're describing here possible. The connection, the trust, the data. Everything we showed today compounds on that foundation that we started the company with. So, if what you heard today resonates, my email is on the screen and I'd love to hear from you. My team would love to hear from you and to start working with you. And I believe we have enough time for questions.
All right. Thank you, Alvaro. Um, any questions from the group, please add them to the webinar chat that you can find down the bottom of your screen. Okay. We have a couple coming in. Alvaro, first question coming in. How does this handle union rules like CBAs and seniority-based call-off lists?
Yeah. So there's a few things that we need to build this year. One, we today we have what we call points visibility. We connect to systems that helps us understand the points and the attendance policy, the rules. But what we're building this year is the ability to actually calculate those points natively within our system. And so when we have points, skills, certifications, and also what we call employee profile, we start to understand the constraints that that specific site, that that specific company works through, and that the specific people, how they are related to those constraints. So we're building the system to be able to understand the different constraints that we all know manufacturing has based on unions.
Makes a lot of sense. Next question we have is why will supervisors trust this?
Mm, that this is the main question. I love I love that. Because we're not going to start by trying to be hyper intelligent and making decisions that are wrong. We start by being extremely helpful, letting the supervisor lead, and only when we are absolutely sure that we can recommend something with high accuracy, we will attempt to make recommendations. And even when we do that, we will never do something automatically. The supervisor is always going to take the lead in taking the final action to make sure the shift is backfilled.
And one more we have, or I see coming in. Um, what is the biggest ROI you're hoping this will help operations achieve?
That's fantastic. I mean, today our main ROI is absenteeism, right? We reduce absenteeism, and as we move into operations, we think we can start just improving the ROI of the floor. So both production and all of the KPIs that supervisors really care about. So more to come there, but obviously we have big dreams and moving beyond just reducing absenteeism to actually help the supervisors' KPIs in operations.
Okay, and I see two more at the moment. You mentioned data birthright, but what is my source of data truth?
Your source of data truth, um, the supervisor. Your supervisors are basically your source of data that today you're losing and you're not capturing. And our intention is to make sure that we capture that data because it's the most valuable asset that you have that gets lost every day in decisions in the floor.
Great. Another one just came in. I'm curious how much of maintenance will the technology require from the company's end? For example, how often do we need to update the data, etc.?
Mm. Yeah, that's great. And this is again why we think the system working with the supervisor is was powerful. If we were designing a system that is completely autonomous, I'll tell you that system will fail immediately. Is only when we pair it with the subject matter expert and we pair intelligent systems with humans that are experts, that we can control the quality of the data. And so our intention is not to present to the supervisor data without confirmation because we know that we're humans. We're going to input data in in HRS systems that is going to be incomplete. If we were making decisions with that incomplete data, we will probably fail really quickly. So what we want to do is take 70% completion on that data because we know those systems are never going to be perfect. And then present that data to the supervisor, let them confirm what's actually happening on the floor. And then we, over time, will start learning over time to make recommendations on A, how to run the shift. But two, we believe that then we can send back data to the HRS systems to start improving the quality of the source data to begin with. So to answer the question, we hope you don't have to do any maintenance besides continuing managing your HRS system, and then eventually we will contribute data back to your HRS system to improve the quality of that data.
Great segue for the next one. Given that data flow, is an API required for this?
Oh yes, absolutely. And obviously that's that not no system can run if we don't have data that is fresh, right? Like, and for those of you like why this matter is if we had data that is updated every week and we're giving supervisors insights every single morning at 3 a.m., then we will be running with outdated data. So yes, APIs will be essential for these systems to work.
Excellent. And just to clarify, we don't TeamSense in general does not require an API, but for to do a lot of the features that Alvaro is speaking about, we will. So there'd be some difference between the two.
Correct.
I think we have time for one more question. Alvaro, how portable is this across different sites?
That's a great question. I mean, we believe that learnings go from site to site, but the specificity of the system needs to be built for each site and each supervisor. And so the good thing about AI is that we can just let it learn from each individual and it scales pretty well. And so I think the setup is important, making sure that the data at the beginning is correct, but then letting the system learn and work with each supervisor is how we start making sure that it becomes very granular to each use case.
Fantastic. All right. We are right at time. Um, All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope this was incredibly insightful and helpful. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to send them over to webinars@teamsense.com. It's webinars@teamsense.com. We're happy to answer any additional questions. And then our next webinar will be a customer spotlight webinar happening on April 8th with Toyo Tires and how they've been able to find some incredible success using the TeamSense system. So thank you everyone for joining. Again, happy to answer additional questions via the webinars@teamsense email. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Alvaro. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.